JP, let me take advantage of your skill sets and transition to hoops a little bit. Ravi and I, off air, were talking about maybe not who's the biggest loss to their team, but who's best equipped to overcome the season-ending injuries. Is it Nebraska with a Sejan and the way they want to play, or Creighton with McAndrew and what happens in that front court?
Ooh, probably Nebraska. I know you're talking about how we are talking about how, or Matt, maybe how important he is to kind of their floor spacing and some of the actions they run. But I think with the way some of the level some of those guys are playing right now and the team as a whole, how it's clicked, whether he's on the court or not, I think that they can get by. Creighton right now, I think the biggest issue with Creighton is this is a team that needed to like find some stability and really settle in and come together. And the roster just keeps changing. They've had so many injuries, and we'll see kind of what happens tonight. I think there's somebody else missed practice yesterday, so we'll see kind of what that means. So obviously you had the redshirt poll changing the lineup potential, and so they just had. I mean, with Freeman, his kind of moment by moment status where you never quite know what he's going to be able to give you. They just haven't been able to find any consistency. And so I don't know, even in the Vegas tournament where they had the same roster for 3 straight games, they played different lineups every single game and they tried different things because some things worked, some things didn't. They were searching. And so you don't necessarily want to be searching at this point to the degree that Creighton is. So I think they've got personnel to replace. Obviously, Isaac Trout, when he's feeling it, can replace some of the floor spacing, and you can run some of the same actions with him. You've got Hudson Greer kind of mixing in there as both 3 and 4 that allows you to play different ways depending on who's out there. You've got Jason Green, who we talked about earlier in the season, needed to get more minutes, and well, now he's getting more minutes, but obviously a completely different type of player, although he is shooting confidently this season. Just teams aren't going to guard him the same way they would have McAndrew. So I think Nebraska, just for the sake of continuity and togetherness and where they are right now, they can afford to replace him a little bit easier just because of the way that Braden Frager is playing. Obviously, Price Sanford's playing at a really high level. And Cale Jacobson too, just kind of plugging holes there, filling in the gaps. Creighton right now, I think they're just very much in searching mode. So adding another variable in losing McAndrew doesn't help that.
JP, which is more important to you if you're Creighton and are trying to find some semblance of what your team's going to look like in February? Getting Owen Freeman to a point where he can play 20 to 25 minutes a game, or having some idea of what you're going to get out of Nick Graves on any given night?
It starts with Freeman. Like, you have, like, this, if he's not going to be the guy that you invested in and thought you could play there,
do you guys think he's healthy?
I think that's the question, right? So getting him healthy.
Yeah, he's not hurt, but he's not healthy either. And you can see it in a lot. It's to be expected. Like McDermott, I think a lot of us maybe kind of glossed over the fact that, because he was clear to play, that he was going to be able to get back to himself relatively quickly. But McDermott has kind of urged caution every step of the way, and we're seeing why. And he just missed so much time because he obviously wasn't playing with the finger injury at the second half of last season. And then in the spring had the knee injury and got sidelined even more. So it's 10 months without really playing basketball. And you can see it out there. Like, some of the rebounding issues are he's just not quick enough to react. It's not necessarily and that's kind of the biggest thing I see. It's like, I'm sure there are times where he's not giving it his all or whatever. There are times where it's just pure stamina, but there are also times where he's just not reacting quickly. I think some of the turnovers against double teams some of the missed shots around the basket. I think a lot it's just not there in every aspect yet. He's just still trying to get used to playing at that level again. And I don't think there's any way you can fast track that besides just playing him. So McDermott's got to continue to give him shots, and if it's not going well, you got to yank him and go try a different direction, and then send him back out there and see if you can get a good stint out of him the next time he's out there. And we've seen that. He's had some really active stretches where he's come in, started second halves or whatever at different points, and he's gone out and been disruptive with his hands defensively, got out and scored some buckets early on, and secured some contested rebounds. Like, okay, that's what it needs to look like. He just can't get there all the time yet. And so, like, it's got to start there because he's got to balance out the offense, and you need what he can provide you. But the second question is very important, and you need one of Fedor Zugic or
don't get Ravi started.
Yeah, you need one of Fedor Zugic and Austin Swartz as well. Like the backcourt as a whole needs to settle in. You can lump all three of those guys together because I think that the backup, like 2-3 minutes right now, are both a struggle regardless. And we may need to see McDermott kind of go one direction or the other. And we did see that in the Oregon where Swartz didn't play. I don't know long-term if that's kind of what it needs to be, but it's kind of hard if you're giving 8 minutes to each of the guys and neither one of them is able to get into a rhythm or really find anything. So we'll see kind of how he continues to approach that aspect of it. But yeah, Graves right now, that's the other key. And I think with Freeman, the difficult thing there is you just don't know how long is it going to take.
Mm-hmm.
And we know there's definitely like a health aspect to it there. Whereas Graves, it's just adjusting to the level of play and the system and all that. And we've seen some brief stretches of it. And there was a point in the preseason where it was like, because Matt Deemer tonight, we had our doubts just based on what we saw in summer workouts and all that. And then by the tail end, before the match started, even in the exhibitions, it looked really good. Like, okay, that we now see the vision. And he's kind of regressed to what I feared once the games had started. And obviously, the issue is they don't really have backups options like Ty Davis, high minutes. Just you're not going to get what you need there at this point. And they tried the Josh Sticks at point guard minutes, and there have been some moments, and I think it's something they need to continue to develop to get their best players on the court. But it wasn't great, and like it put so much pressure on him, and we saw that out in Vegas. Those it didn't really click. It's the problem is we just reeled off three. You mix in missing McAndrew and kind of the various injuries, and it's like 4 issues right now that we just covered already that none of them have a clear answer just yet. And I think that's why Creighton's sitting at 4-3 right now.
Let me get you out of here on this, JP, with I think 6 teams in the Big Ten in the top 25 and pulling up the rear, kind of the USC, Indiana. Ravi and I got into a discussion off air about Indiana versus Iowa and kind of the hirings there. You think Nebraska's going to be closer to the middle of the pack in what could be a really good Big Ten season, or towards the back of the pack where they were picked preseason?
Oh, that's a good. They haven't quite like just the schedule has been solid, but you haven't faced any teams that are the level of the top half of the Big Ten at this point. Like Oklahoma, that was a good win, but
I'm kind of looking at USC. If USC's 24, I've watched them a couple of times. I'm like,
yeah,
like, and it's early. That's the thing. So obviously we have to kind of forecast. But I'm just curious what you think when you look at how you think these teams are capable of playing.
Yeah, well, USC is one of the few teams that's going to have a player older than the Rink Mast, so Nebraska kind of loses that advantage. Chad Baker Mazzara somehow still playing college basketball. But
did you know Mast was going to be that important? Even last year when they
yeah.
talked about him being missing.
Oh, without a doubt, especially as the roster came together. Well, if you go back to last year, you just look at them trying to run actions with the bigs they had and how poorly it went. It just, yeah, they didn't have a guy that could do all the things that Mast did for the team, even though they tried to still play somewhat similar in ways with some of the dribble handoff stuff. And it didn't go super well. So like I knew how important he was last year, and then as they put the roster together this season, and this kind of goes into the initial question is like, where are they going to settle in the Big Ten? We'll see as we get into the tougher part of the schedule where they start facing some teams that I think can better attack some of their weaknesses and exploit some things with this roster. Like I still have questions about the backcourt and the ability to create and consistently break down defenses and set things up. I thought coming in, the way they built the roster without kind of a real dynamic, reliable point guard or even perimeter creation option, like that put so much stress on and so much importance on Mast and his ability to initiate offense and set things up and run through him in the high post and the dribble handoffs and the low post getting other guys looks, because they don't have, like, Jamarcus Lawrence has played solid. Like I don't think he's really a dynamic point guard that can really create offense. He can run things through. Same thing, Sam Hoiberg. He's been so good for them in the role that he plays, but I just don't know that you've got a guy that can consistently break down defenses off the dribble, run a lot of ball screens and be really threatening in those actions, and things like that. So you have to play through Mast. He's your guy that has the best chance to create an advantage. And we're seeing Price Sanford's ability to not only just shoot, but attack closeouts and get downhill and do some things in that way. And he's kind of emerging as a co-star, I guess, if you want to say, with Mast.
It's cool to see his game evolve for those of us that have watched him in the summer a lot, right? We knew kind of what he was, and a lot of it is his mentality. Like, he's an aggressive, confident person.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously last year at Iowa, I think allowed him to kind of find his footing at the college level, and now just the continued progression. And I think Fred Hoiberg adding some things into kind of the coaching and development there has allowed him to take a big step forward. And he's been a huge part of the start to the season, and he's going to continue. They're going to need him to continue to go in that direction. And but again, like, a lot of what he's doing is started by others, created, whether it's the attention paid to Mast or some of the other things they're doing, again, with his ability to attack closeouts and knock down shots. So Mast has played a really important role, and we'll have to see if they get into conference play, do they have some guys that can that can put up more resistance for what Mast wants to do. And
he's going to stretch him, though.
The case. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. We'll see kind of when you find some teams that have a little bit more athleticism and size than maybe they've seen thus far, kind of the mix of the two, just better overall players at that spot. But it's going to put more pressure on the other guys to be able to go win consistently. And that's kind of the question remaining. But no doubt, Rink Mast, I think you couldn't have asked anything more for him coming back with all the time that he missed. And he's the biggest reason why Nebraska is off to the start.
That is our guy, Jacob Padilla, Hurrdat Sports, Hail Varsity, NAB Preps, all the things.
That's pretty comprehensive, JP.
Got all the ground covered.
We even touched on the Suns, but that's what the group chat will be for.
We'll get to that later. Surprisingly spicy early in the season. That's what we'll say about the Suns.
Colin Gillespie. He's changed my life. I don't know how, but he has.
Wow.
Write that down.
About to revoke your Creighton card with that one. JP, we'll talk to you later, buddy.
All right, bye, guys.